Welcome back, mashed potatoes. Every once in a while, this idea surfaces in forums and on groups. How would Hulk fare in the 40K universe? Not the craziest thing to ask, since Marvel Comics has a deal with Games Workshop, and Marvel has done what-ifs and crossovers involving properties that aren't strictly their own before. In the comics, films, and cartoons, Hulk has been exiled, or exiled himself, from Earth. He lands on the planet Sakaar, and he becomes a gladiator before conquering that planet. But what if he didn't land on Sakaar? There's a fan story where Hulk lands on Armageddon and ends up leading the orcs against the Imperium. Now, some of you are recoiling from this idea, and I hear you. There's certainly an argument to be made that since Hulk is not an orc, there's no way orcs would bend the knee to him. On the other hand, there is a precedent for orcs adopting things that aren't fully orky. For example, the squigs, that are such a fundamental part of orc society, were originally some form of Tyrannid Ripper. Now, if a group of orcs saw the green giant tear a leg off an Imperial Titan, it's easy to imagine them coming to believe that Hulk is an avatar of Mork or Gork. And if enough of them come to believe that, then his mutated human DNA, which is affected by energy and rage, being slightly tweaked into a form that reflects this orcish belief. You can see him getting tusks, maybe an orc-like face, losing his hair. And that's what I've got for you today, guys. A Planet Hulk version of Hulk that's been slightly tweaked into a more orcoid form. Now, this comes from the movie, but you can see it's still very much modeled on the Green Scar model. Now, to start with, we're going to take our Thor Ragnarok movie Hulk. Now, I've got all my components here. I've got an orc knob head that's got a broken horn. I'm just going to cut those horns off and put them on some other orc, what's left of them anyway. I've got a shoulder pad I'm putting on my Clear HeroClix Hulk because it's got a terrible seam in the shoulder that I don't like. And we're going to just conceal that. And of course, I've got a gun for him because he is going to be an orc, so he's going to need some DACA. I'm going to pry him up with a flathead screwdriver off the special base. It's pretty easy to do. I'm going to put that base in my giant bag of HeroClix bases. And then I'm going to prep the parts, starting by drilling the gun barrel in the orc shooter. I've got a Dremel tool here. A lot of people might want to use a pin vise for this, but it's a little quicker to do it with the power tool if your hands are steady enough. I don't recommend it for everybody. I'm going to clip the orc's hand off the gun, and I'm going to save the orc arm. I might use that for something somewhere down the road. The hand is going to get a little too chewed up to be saved, though, in the process of removing it. Just clippity-clip with a pair of wire cutters here. Eventually, I'll clean that up with an X-Acto knife. So I'm also going to take the Dremel tool to the hand of our Hulk here, and I'm just going to flatten it out on the top and the front so we get a nice flush fit with the orc shooter. I'm going to be putting that obviously in the hand that doesn't have a weapon. And when we're done with that, it's going to look like the model came with that gun. It's going to look very nice. We're going to make sure we get a nice natural looking fit. And that means tweaking the two components and testing them out and seeing what we've got to do to get them to fit right. Now let's take Hulk's head off. I'm using that same flathead screwdriver. I'm just going to pry it off. And you see we have a little plastic neck stump there that we're going to have to cut down. In fact, orcs don't really have much in the way of necks, so we're going to cut that down a lot. So we keep that orky look. Orcs' heads kind of connect in a way that isn't natural to humans. They kind of come in from the side. Something you'd see, maybe among apes. So we've got to carve that neck up to really get it to match that head. But when it's done, we get a nice flush fit. Now I'm going to dip this whole HeroClix into some acetone. And I know you 40K folks are freaking out, but trust me, acetone does not affect HeroClix miniatures, at least not with a quick dip. I know people who leave them in overnight and they get all swollen, but then eventually they return to normal, but they're always a little soft. I'm not doing that. I'm just sticking them in for about a minute. And you can see after a minute in that acetone, a quick hit with a toothbrush gets all that paint off. It's very effective time-wise. It's very satisfying. Not going to soak these in green stuff. I hear that doesn't even work for HeroClix. So acetone is the way to go to strip HeroClix down. Now I'm going to chop the base that he comes with off of his feet because that's just not going to look right for something that's going to stand next to other 40K miniatures if I'm going to want to use this in my games, and why not? This guy will make a fun Warboss in friendly games, and so in order to hide the fact that he's a HeroClix, we're going to chop that base off, and then I'm going to come in and grind what's left of that base off the bottom of his feet using our Dremel engraving tool here. Just chew it right off. It's pretty quick when it's all said and done. Then we're going to put a little E6000 on the bottom of his feet, and we're going to start putting this thing together. I'm putting him on a 32mm base because he is such a large mini. These days, all orcs are supposed to be on 32mm bases anyway. All orcs are supposed to be on 32mm bases, so let's just slap this guy together with E6000 across the board. E6000 is going to put that shoulder pad on. I'm going to use E6000 to get the gun in his hand. It's basically a super glue gel if you haven't used this. I prefer super glue gels to the liquidy super glue, which is a lot harder to work with. Gels give you a little time to set up, and they're visually there. You know how much you've got. I don't know. I find liquid super glue kind of a pain in the butt. It's my least favorite thing to use. I'll use it in a pinch, but if I've got the gel on hand of any kind, particularly E6000, that's what I'll go for. And we're going to also put the head on the same way. I'm going to spread a little E6000 on the base, dip it into some craft sand for our flocking. I know people go a little more out for flocking, but I'm really happy with the way craft sand looks when it's highlighted. Now I'm also dipping Hulk's head into that acetone, scrubbing the paint off of that. We're not going to be using the whole head, but I do want to get that sort of Roman centurion fringe off of the helmet so we can keep that sort of look and that theme going of this being based on our Green Scar model. In order to capture that Green Scar Hulk look, I'm going to keep this fringe and I'm going to clip it off, and then I'm going to cut it down with some safety knife and even grind it a little bit here with my Dremel tool again, which I use for just about everything. Once that's cut down to just the fringe, I'm going to stick it on top of our orc helmet, which I've also ground down a little bit to flatten it out, just to make sure we get a nice fit with that fringe on top of the helmet there. Here he is, primed in black, ready to go. Didn't do anything too fancy like zenithal highlighting, because honestly, painting with zenithal and sort of doing like a light color stain over that is just a technique I'm just starting to learn. I haven't mastered it. So I'm just going to do sort of base coats and layers, more traditional, slower style that I'm more familiar with. I really want this to look good, so I'm going with the stuff I know best. I'm putting a little P3, a couple of different greens underneath. Start with the skin. You know, they say paint from the bottom layer and work your way up. Now I'm tightening up any of the things that might have gotten hit with the green where it didn't need it. Just putting some black paint over all the metal, make sure we've got good coverage there. And now we're just sort of picking out different layers and laying in base coats, picking out the brown leather straps on the body, starting to fill in the metal bits to begin with. Trying to get some coverage with some of this cheap red paint on his toga bottom and his gloves, and it's not really coming off right. I'm bringing that up with some orange. We're going to be working with red undercoat and orange to yellow eventually. All bad colors to try to paint over black, but I'm a masochist, so here I am struggling with it. Quite a challenge. It ended up being most of the work I did on this model. But when it came out, all said and done, actually quite happy with the results. I think it looks pretty great. Now guys, here we can see him by himself, and also with some of the other orcish projects I've done on this channel before. If you're a 40K fan or you like 40K orcs, why don't you check out some of my other videos? If you'd like to support this channel, please consider donating to my GoFundMe. The link for that is in the description below. Come visit us on Facebook, like and comment on that page. You can always stay in touch with me there. Until next time, guys, this has been Miniature Mashup. Thanks for watching.